QB chasing.
G'day, listeners. This episode is proudly brought to you by our major sponsor, Gym Journal. Please use the code MATTER, all capitals, at checkout, and you'll receive a discount on your next purchase. Please find the link in the description.
Alrighty, we are cracking on with what is going to be an absolutely thrilling conversation. Joined by my friend here, Big TEX. McQuilkin, how are you, brother? Thank you very much for joining me in your early morning.
Incredible, man. I'm glad we did the reverse. Now I can do coffee chugs and we can just push you into a late night and supercharge.
You've got the day ahead of you. My day's coming for a wrap up, but I'm still getting the monsters in so I can keep up with you.
Oh, baby.
Oh, we're here for a good one. We're here for a good one. I think there's a reason why we connected so well. I think there's a very similar philosophy, though we probably differentiate in fields. I do have a dabble in performance and field coaching, but more on the individual level. But I think in one of the things I found really unique about you and your history of performance talk, you've got the Power Athlete podcast, you've got Captains and Coaches, is the philosophy of the lessons and education and impact that the coach can bring in a person's life. And I know that I've been touched by some significant coaches in a very non-predatorial way. Let's emphasize that's a very impactful way, if you will.
Phrasing.
Phrasing's on point. I can still pinpoint the moment I've had several coaches that said something of belief to me that kind of changed the trajectory of my life, that I then felt a responsibility to continue that conversation, to continue that approach or that impact at the athlete-student level. And something that I take a lot of privilege in when I get my younger athletes, like I want to be that same person. And I think the lessons and experiences you've shared with captains and coaches on your podcasts and the impact that you're trying to have at teaching that coaching skill, I think is something that A, the world needs more of, and B, that we can all do better as coaches. It's beyond just prescribing sets and reps and macros or X's and O's. It's the impact that you're having as a coach with the client, with the person, the individual, that actually makes lifelong differences. I think there's a lot there that we can talk about and unpack that is probably similar to your philosophy of educating the coach and coaching that probably can resonate so well with me. Just dive into your thoughts on that straight off the bat.
Yeah, man, you highlighted a something that gave me goosebumps, where you highlighted coaches that believed in you. And then they inspired you and led you to this expectation that you started to hold yourself accountable. And now you bring that same expectation where your athletes may not believe in themselves, but you believe in the potential that they could bring. And so that starts to encourage and empower them because you've painted the picture of potential and they start to see and believe that. Well, my origin story is the exact opposite. It's people that then stood in the way. So I had this self-fulfilling belief for myself as a leader and a winner. And then the environment around me was not cultivating that. It was not pouring water or pouring gasoline onto that. Or it was not pouring water, it was pouring gasoline on that to then bring me down. So grew up within the small town Texas environment where they break a lot of eggs to make an omelet. And if you've read the book Friday Night Lights, this is a great story that helped paint the picture of the environment in which I was brought up as an athlete. There's the book Friday Night Lights. There's the movie Friday Night Lights, which is incredible. It's the best football movie out there, in my opinion. And then there's the TV show. Sorry, I got my dogs in here. They may be barking a little bit. But then there's the TV show. High school's not that dramatic. I don't recommend the TV show for actually painting the picture here. I actually live in the town that the TV show was filmed. So I've coached these kids. Yeah, Dripping Springs, Texas. It's not that dramatic. So going back, they break a lot of eggs. So they put you in a position to fail. And then when certain kids succeed, then they praise them as their methodology, how they treat individuals works. But then they just push and cast aside a lot of kids. So then who do they become? They become this picture that what their coach painted of them, and then they step into society as that. And that's a big mission here, where there is a mindset in the state of Texas that sports teach lesson. Football taught me how to be a man. Sports do not teach lessons. Captains and coaches do. Your leaders on your team, the leaders of your team start to instill these lessons. So I had a mental battle between who I believed that I was and who my coaches were telling me who that I was. During our junior season of football, it's a make or break point in the whole social realm that combines high school sports and just the social dynamic of school, where you're a junior, you either make varsity and be part of this immaculate football program, or you're a junior on JV. So our sports team, our coaches, who are also the athletic department directors, so it's not just sports football, they also run the whole athletic department. So football is king here. So then coach took me aside. He said, you work hard in the weight room, you work hard in the field, you're just not any good. So as a coaching staff, they made a decision for my junior class that they were going to put us on JV and the class underneath us, because we were a losing team. We were not good at football. We were a losing team, but then they needed to keep their jobs. So they proposed to the boosters, those that decide and pay their checks here, they're going to take the class underneath us. They're going to put them ahead of us, and they're going to try to lose for 1, 2, 3 years for a chance to compete later on. So they rode us off into the sunset. Well, we were a very tight-knit group, right? Played sports together forever, spent a lot of time together, working hard. And so we decided, like, this is BS. This is BS. Why are you deciding our performance for us? So then we found, it came from one kid. I remember his name is Nathan. It came from Nathan that, why don't we just start a lacrosse team? And this is small town Texas. I don't even know what lacrosse was, and it's not big in Australia. Y'all do have a national team in 2028 Olympics. Lacrosse has made its way into the Olympics, which is amazing. So then this kid, he proposed this idea, and we're like, I don't know what that is, but that sounds fun because we're going to do it together. So we started a lacrosse team. We recruited and lacrosse is huge in the state of New York. We recruited a coach who had a nephew on our state rival, football team rival, and he decided to just volunteer his time, and he was just a cool guy. So he loved that we were into this sport that he grew up playing, and this is actually, he grew up in Tinseltown. Nick Tintle, the owner operator of the lacrosse barn, former professional. So my high school coach knew Nick's father and his uncle. It's like a crazy small world here. So he just instilled, like, hey, have fun. He knew that we sucked, and it's also Texas. So we're basically playing football with sticks. But he instilled, hey, we're playing sport, and then there's a lot of philosophy with the sport of lacrosse. It was created by the Native Americans, so there's a lot of history with the sport. So it's the medicine game. So he knew this philosophy where the game just gives back as much as you put into it. So then he created just now this idea that we are really good athletes. Why couldn't we be good lacrosse players? Which, okay, now I have somebody that believes in me, and so you have just this dichotomy where I'm still playing football and I'm getting told something else, but then you go to a different practice and then I don't know what to believe. So I wanted to navigate to the positivity, and then the same negative context was at home. So it was like, all right, I will lean into sports as an escape from home. I have the weight room where it didn't matter what I did after school, so I'm just going to go hang out at the weight room. I'm going to go just play whatever sport I can in season to avoid that conflict at home. So Now I have a guiding light, but it's still just this battle internally and mentally. But through lacrosse, I got the opportunity to go play college ball. And I still hold on to a lesson from that high school coach. And this is small town thinking, but I love it. It's you're going to be remembered for what you're not supposed to do. And there's two sides to this coin. Number one, if I'm supposed to be this awesome college athlete, no matter the sport, and leave town and gonna be this phenom, that they're gonna like put my name underneath the welcome to this city town, the home of. And then I go off and I don't succeed, or I get wrapped up into the temptations that are college opportunities. We'll just call it that. And I come back and I'm not that Super Bowl hero that I was supposed to be. Well, then I'm going to remember it as the never was.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, if I go off and they're like, you're going to play what? So we started the team. I was the first kid from my town to go play college lacrosse. Like, okay, well, now I was not supposed to do anything. I was not supposed to be a successful athlete. I was told that. But now I go off and then 4-year starter, 3-year captain for a lacrosse team. And now 21 years later, the lacrosse program is thriving within the town, and kids are going off to play college from that town that, I don't know their names. They don't know my name, but I know the origins and the root. So wasn't supposed to do any of that, but now I feel great. Now I have a good relationship with the high school coach that's in place now, a younger guy. So I wasn't supposed to do any of that. So now how I want to be remembered, right? They may not know my name, but I know the origins and the roots that were laid down within that team and that opportunity. So that's a sense that my memory through that sport will live on in that town, whether they know my name or not. So I wasn't supposed to do any of that, but it's still there. So that led to college sport, like I said, 4-year starter, 3-year captain. And my first coaching opportunity was for the Division III team that I had. So I went from team captain to now coach. And there's lessons in there because these were my friends. They were my teammates, but then they became my athletes. So learning that push-pull dynamic where, okay, 6 months ago, we're drinking beers together, but now I'm trying to motivate you and push you and hold you accountable for what I understand to be hard work and health, which is not what I was doing 6 months ago. So navigating that, and it was an interesting experience. And at the same time, like, I'm battling imposter syndrome because I have to go hit the recruiting trail, and recruiting in college, that's a whole different conversation. But at the same time, you got to go watch kids participate in their club sports on weekends. Rules have changed. You used to be able to communicate and talk to families and athletes at the time. So you watch kids play, and then you go find out who they are character-wise and their goals, and you meet their parents and their families. And so I was going out and recruiting kids for lacrosse, and I had only been playing for 6 years. These kids have been playing their entire lives. So I was recruiting kids that were more experienced in the sport than I ever was. They have a knack and a feel for the game that I know I didn't have, and I wasn't confident in that. So how do I pitch these kids on coming to a school when they know more about the sport than I do? So through Texas, you lift weights, you run fast, and you play your sport. So I started to lean into what I was confident in, which I was strong. I was fast enough. And then I had a passion for training and weightlifting. I took on that responsibility as team captain to pull guys into our workout fitness facility. I'm not going to call it a weight room because it wasn't, but get guys to work out outside of that. So then started to bring that into my recruiting sales pitch. So we got guys there through that passion, and the lens I was looking through is, hey, I'll turn anybody into like a hardworking, strong person. I didn't know what I was doing. I just had my friends that played at University of Texas. I would just ping them email, Hotmail, if you remember that, to
Yeah.
AIM. These are my college terms. So they would send me their workout program that they were doing as University of Texas football players, and I would do that as a Division III 5'7" white genetic trash can. It was not the right program for me, but it was all I had. So I had something that was in there. And then my first workout with these guys for training, again, we don't have a weight room. We have a fitness center, but we do have space on campus. So I had 40 dudes. We needed upper body strength. I knew that because we were not, again, Division III in lacrosse. Like there is no weightlifting component. Football has a great relationship with training and hard work, but a lot of kids that were coming to college, they never touched a barbell before, but
Oof.
there were still Division III college level athletes. So I asked the team, again, my friends, my former teammates, now my athletes, to kick up into a handstand against a wall that we had. So imagine 40 dudes trying to kick up into a handstand, and one of them falls down. And my coaching style, I only knew one way, which was to basically be an asshole. So I run up and I MF this guy like, okay, what are you doing? Get up. And he couldn't. He stood up and his arm is just like dangling there. And then it turned out he tore his rotator cuff. So I tore his rotator cuff. I asked them to do this. I didn't prepare them for this. It was just like, okay, what's going on in my brain? We need this. Let's just go do this. And kid kicks up into a handstand and tears his freaking rotator cuff. And that was the moment. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I had imposter syndrome on the sport, and now I realize my whole identity as a strong dude. I'm a terrible coach. So I made a decision like I will research the hell out of this. My major in undergrad was health sciences, so it was like pussyfoot and nutrition, and I was getting taught non-performance related things, basically the opposite of everything that you teach.
Mhm.
That's just the way it was. And then my grad school was health behavior, so more
Mhm.
psychology and making decisions versus like what the hell to do in performance. Like sports performance is now a college major. It wasn't when I was in school. So I had to pursue now the understanding all on my own. So I had to go away from school. Yes, check all those boxes, get the degree, but at the same time, the passion is with performance. I had to find mentors and learn from them. Thank God for this community and the open doors. So through 2009 Google, hop on there and find John Wellborn, who this is the birth and the dawn of CrossFit football, which was a traveling performance seminar for CrossFit. So CrossFit contracted John to teach a sports performance seminar using effectively CrossFit lingo to teach John's experience with sports performance training as a former collegiate Division I player, fourth round draft pick, and then 10-year NFL veteran. So I was in grad school, and this is actually where I met Cav. I was working as a personal training director in college, and as you know, part-time, but I was making personal training sales and then personal training clients. And so immaculately, I made enough for sales in my first month. I'm not a salesman. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And not confident individual. I made enough sales to pay for a trip to go out to attend the fifth ever CrossFit football seminar and spend 2 days just cracking the bone and sucking the marrow out of that experience. So it was led by Wellborn and then a man named Rafael Ruiz, who's become a great mentor and friend. And then I was able to take the information from these two men and take it back to Division III athletes who are complete amateurs in terms of the weight room and lifting. And so I was able to learn how to coach, where the opposite in Texas was break a lot of eggs to make an omelet and then justify your results by the one or two athletes that make it to the next level. I had a bunch of dudes that didn't make it to the next level, that were here, that were completely raw. So then I'll take them and I'll learn how to coach. I didn't break a lot of eggs. I injured that one kid from there, but then took it my responsibility. I'm going to hurt no one. We're going to put them in a position to succeed. But I learned how to coach in the weight room, and I also had practice opportunities. So started to use the field to communicate setup and execution in the weight room, and vice versa. Use the weight room on the practice field. Hey, just like we did with the squat or trying to set up the squat, show me how you play defense. So in a ready position, and then they're out duck-footed in their defensive position. It's like, okay, no, let's rotate your heels out. So we're going to set up now, toes forward, and we're going to squat this way. It's also a good change of direction and defensive mechanics. So started to see the parallel there and communicate, and had 3 years to learn how to coach. I was terrible. If I had film of me in that weight room, I would kick my own ass right now. I vividly remember a lot of those communication fails and experiences, especially with the deadlift. Very difficult to teach kids that are so uncoordinated.
Yeah.
But it was a learning experience, a learning curve. So 3 years with these athletes, learning how to communicate, learning how to coach, and making connections to the field. And then I got the opportunity to jump to Georgetown University. I decided, this is again my self-limiting beliefs. I decided I was a better strength coach than a sport coach. So then just went all in with strength, and during the weeks would coach at Division I Georgetown University with the crew team, the rowing team, and then assist the men's and women's lacrosse team with Coach Sean Foster, who's still there, and Michael Hill. And then on the weekends, this is where John actually threw up the flare. The CrossFit football seminar was blowing up, so he needed to hire more people. And I had stuck out from that 2-day experience, asked the right questions, and then he picked me up to hire me. So the weekends, I would go whip away all over the world. I've actually been to Australia 3 times, 5 cities, Perth, Sydney 3 times, and then Brisbane for the seminar. So on weekends, I'd go whip away all over the world teaching coaches how to teach people to lift weights and run fast. And I would bring, again, communication lessons to Division I athletes that were field and court, but also in the boat, and weight class athletes. With rowing, it's a weight class sport. So you need to balance the size. It can't just be more, which field football, you can be more. So start to balance all of these lessons. Again, it's all comes down to connection and communication. With that seminar, and these are valuable lessons, with the seminar, you could drop me anywhere in the world with the team, and you had to make an immediate connection. Again, 5'7", white genetic trash can. I did not play professional sports. So if they're coming there to see a professional football player, to learn from him, and then you get this little guy walking in there, okay, I got to earn their trust quick. I got to earn their respect, and I got to get them to listen to me quick. So that's a sense of skill where you start to develop a belief in yourself. Maybe I do know what the hell I'm talking about. I have to, or else they'll see right through that veil. So it did take reps. It did take time, and turned into an awesome presenter. I can say that. I speak nationally all over the United States now. So speaking became from a weakness into a wheelhouse strength. And that's through reps, and that's through experience and confidence and building, and a great team in place from that environment. So all those lessons all over the world, but then would bring what I would learn and unfold through the stress of presentation. It was never scripts. It was loose outlines, but just how my brain works, creativities in the connections, start to learn different sports. Because in rugby, it was rugby union, it was rugby 15. So taking those and learning about those sports to make the connection with the person that I'm talking to. In South Korea, it was baseball. In South Africa, it was more rugby again. In Australia, in Ireland, it was something called hurling, the most violent sport of all time, but it's awesome. It's like lacrosse and field hockey and football and everything mixed. It's amazing. So just wherever I am in the world, taking whatever lessons, whatever sport that is, okay, well, here's the filter that we're going to look through, and we're going to set up, execute, and assess, and then start to teach assessments, start to teach the coach's eye and what to look for, and what, if I see this movement, then this is what this means. Because your athletes, they always want to work hard. They always want to step up and give you their all. Hey, how you feeling today? Oh, I feel amazing. If HRV existed back then, it would have been dog shit. So that's the philosophy I have, where athletes will lie to you, but movement never will. And then, which we're going to get into a lot of the EQ, me dropping into these environments all over the world. Okay, I got to learn to observe and read people, find what communication style connects with them, and then just pull that thread. Okay, so then there's 40, 50 people in this seminar. Now I got to be very efficient and effective communicator, because I got to make a moment and connection with each person there. I want to give them they paid a lot of money to be there. I want to give them their moment. So that takes a lot too, because you got to get to know people on the fly and then communicate. So it's been an immaculate journey. Like, there's a lot of points and positions I skipped there. Like, I spent 4 months with Ruiz, and this is 2014 when he was gearing up. He had a contract for 2016 Olympic swimmers. So he went from NFL athletes to military to swimmers in the Olympic level. So now I had to basically learn how to strength and condition swimmers by getting in the pool. And I'm a land animal. I have negative buoyancy. I'm in the 99 percentile for bone density in the world. I've done a DEXA scan a few times. So I actually sink, but I have to understand the sport. I got to be in there. And then where does my amateur meet the Olympian? So understand the whole range of development for a swimmer that way. So that was an awesome, and that's where I learned a lot of the EQ lessons we're going to get into today. So, dude, I was thinking about this the other day, in a massive, irreplicable development and experience as a coach over the last 15 years. That's all over the world, and some awesome mentors along the way. So, like, long way of saying, I'm going to be remembered for what I wasn't supposed to do. I didn't accept the lessons and labels that my high school coaches put on me. And that's what I'm going after, is finding the kids that do not believe in themselves, or finding the coaches that are willing to learn how to communicate because they have learned from the lessons and the negative things that they said. They actually, it stung them. So trying to learn from those, just like many of the experiences that I've failed as a communicator and a coach, to lead off there. So I can go long story longer, man, but let's get into
I think this opens up a really important dialogue piece, like to even come back to the start of the conversation, which I think there is such an important nugget in there, which is there's a pivot point, I think, that has probably led to, and you'll have already had this thought and felt it and been through it. I know I've had those moments when I lost things and they were taken away from me from my car accident, my injury, but the importance of the role of a coach in, I think, the response, as I'm a big Marvel fan, as you can see all the things behind me, but as Uncle Ben says to Peter Parker, right, with great power comes great responsibility. And I think in a lot of instances, especially at the younger levels, but also even in sports and where I am, in the fields of body composition, physique performance, physique coaching, the coach doesn't understand the power and the responsibility that they both possess and that they inherit in the role and need to own. And the way in which it's conveyed or discussed, or their strategies, their philosophies, it's not just about the result it's going to put on the field or on the stage or in the gym. It's about the result that it's going to have, the impact it'll have on that person's life for decades to come. When I coach someone, I'm looking at, how do I be that coach that was with me in high school that said, hey, I want to see you succeed. I believe, even though you're having a bad season, I believe that you're going to go do something. Because all I needed to hear was that. All I needed to hear was that one sentence to go, fuck, this guy actually believes that I'm capable of something, even though right now I'm attacking myself as a 15-year-old, testosterone, puberty-driven male who's being challenged on body image and, self-belief and positional playtime. This guy who is the coach believes that I'm going to go do something based on my work ethic and my dedication and drive, not my actual performance. That might be lacking this year, but what he sees, the potential he sees is where I'm going to buy into that because he's seen it too. And I think a lot of coaches don't understand that. A very foundational philosophy of matter is we believe that there is a potential in people they don't understand they have, and it's our job to get it out. And whether that be physique development, business, performance, we've got special forces firefighters, fighter pilots, the multitude of people that have different potentials and abilities. That a coach's job is to extract that, is to get it out of the individual person in their field, in their craft, in their specialty. And I think what you experienced was, yes, the polar opposite of me with that. I had some shitty coaches as well, but I don't think they outweighed that great coach that I did have. I think, fortunately for you, the greatest thing that didn't happen, or the thing that did happen, was that you experienced that horrible coaching, because it led you down the endeavor of knowing now, as an individual, and you can more than expand on this, but as an individual, what a poor coach is like, what poor coaching belief, what poor coaching culture, what poor coaching philosophy can do to a person, not only on the field, but in life and for generations to come. There is a potential there as a coach that you change someone's life for the better, or you have a pivot moment with that athlete or client and you make it worse. Fortunately for you, you possess that mental strength and fortitude, even at the which we're going to have a very big point on the athlete becoming the coach, which I think is a very important talking point. But you both possess the ability now as the athlete. You've been the athlete. You're now recognizing as a coach, you don't want to be that guy. And there's a motivational literature in there that is quite important, which is where you don't want to go, which is obviously end up like him as a coach, but you've had great coaches and mentors, so you know where you do want to go. And that is a very powerful thing for coaches to understand, that knowing what that poor coaching experience is like, or what being coached poorly, going through that lack of belief and lack of confidence from your coaching staff, I believe that's impacted you in a drastic way, where you can go, that is exactly what I don't want to be, and I'm going to be better for the people I work with. And I think you can definitely expand on that pivotal moment where you go, it probably shaped you in the direction your life took because of what he didn't provide. And that's such a power that coaches have. And we in this field, I feel, don't respect and own that responsibility. And I think it's something we drastically need to change, because it is so important. We look at beyond the sets and reps and the X and O's, the impact that we have on an individual's life now and in the future.
Yeah, man. And that this has taken more than 15 years to understand, where limitations, you need to start in constraints. You need to start and look how they've built strengths. So yeah, mentioned home before, where I'm a quiet, shy person, was labeled that. And then, okay, why is that? Well, yeah, if you spoke up at home, all of a sudden the world blew up. So now, with the superpower that I developed from that was observation. So now I can learn to read the energy in a room. Well, I had 10,000 hours of reading the energy of the room growing up. So now stepping into, okay, well, yes, combining that with dropping into a seminar anywhere in the world. Okay, I can read the room and find out, okay, this person's into it. Awesome. This person, they've got their shield, their walls up. Okay, I need to spend more time with them. So looking at that opportunity growing up as now a wheelhouse and a superpower of observation and learning from that, where you're interning in a weight room and you need to observe. You need the lens on, where I want to speak up, but I'm now in the power dynamics. I'm an intern. I'm going to allow the leader of the weight room to then have their moment. And then I'm going to find time to communicate them. Hey, what did you see? So now I know what I learned and observed. What did the person where I want to be in this position, what was their perspective? So now I'm leaning into people and asking questions to try to shape those observations, instead of just holding on to what I saw in my beliefs. So now I'm increasing my awareness. So this is emotional quotient, where I was labeled a shy person. I was labeled a robot with no emotions. I felt them, but then when people would tell me that that's what they see, okay, well then I would go down on myself, like put down, body language, negative, versus, okay, well, now reflecting on that, okay, well, I'm just observing the environment to need to learn from that. So these are where I felt the passion and the power for these people, but I was told otherwise again. So people labeling me. So these are steps now where we're developing emotional quotient. All of us have it. Even maybe people have the resting bitch face. Maybe they have the quiet. It doesn't mean they don't care. Coaching style, right? Not everybody's going to be the lightning in the bottle and just freaking blow it up and be awesome on TikTok and amazing in the weight room. You're going to have the calculated individuals that can read and see this. Certain sports reward that quiet, calculated. If we watch the best Olympic weightlifting coaches in the world or the best track and field coaches in the world, they sit back, they observe on their little comfortable lawn chairs, and then they step in and give you one direction, one cue. So now that's rewarded for being that. Where in the opposite Division I football, you got to be jacked as all hell or big and strong, as big as the world for these people, and then you got to match as big as you are with your energy. That's just football. You can still have strength coaches within football that are the opposite. So it comes down to energy, reading the room. But first and foremost, you can't pretend to be something that you are not. If you are not that lightning in a bottle, when you pretend to be, athletes are going to see right through that. So this is the foundation for developing emotional quotient as a coach is self-awareness. So what is your wheelhouse? What is your history? What are your strengths? What can you pour water on and help develop and grow? What do you need to pour gasoline on and just burn off and burn down and accept that? Because if you try to be what you're not, you're going to hit ceilings within your career because people they'll stop leaning into you to grow, both from a mentor perspective and an athlete perspective. So that's important. And that level of self-awareness, that's difficult to understand. You need to hold the mirror up. I presented many mistakes here, many environments that I was in, but reflecting on those and seeing, okay, it was never me against the world. What did I do? How did I respond to the environment and how could I approach that differently? So that self-awareness is this first key, but then that steps into social awareness. Can I read the room around me? It's not just, hey, this is how I feel. F those people. They don't know what they're talking about. No, this is how I feel. How does the person across from me feel? With those football coaches, I've since had conversations with them to understand, and this is where I've gotten context within my origin story, if we're going to use Spider-Man here. So I've gotten context, and now I don't hold them in a negative sense. They made decisions to then maintain food on their plate in support of their families, which was A-okay. And then one of the dudes that was on this class below me, he went on to be a professional athlete and is the all-time rushing leader at one of his college. So like they were justified in the expectation, the performance, and the level of athleticism of the people below us. So it is justified. But then me having those conversations allowed for this to happen. So you must seek to understand, to use a proverb there. But emotional quotient, the foundation is self-awareness, which takes a lot of time and reflection, and then a true understanding of what your strengths and opportunities for growth. We can reframe weaknesses there, and you still must seek development and mentorship for your weaknesses. There was a moment, and with Ruiz, so I was with him 2014, 2016 Olympics happened. And then we were at a conference. I flew out to Orlando. He's based in Tampa Bay, so lived in Tampa for a bit. And there was a conference in Orlando. So he drove across state with his family to hang out and spend some time with me at a conference that he wasn't a part of. And then we're hanging out, just, getting bro time, families by the pool. And then he had a moment where the veil came down, and we were just speaking as friends at this point versus the power dynamics of mentor and student. Now we're colleagues. And so this is another moment. I hold a lot of quotes in conversations, and I love to share and pass them along. But we were sitting by the pool, and he's just looking at his family play, and he knew the path that I was on was so passionate about performance.
Mm-hmm.
But he's just quite honestly told me you need to lean in where your weaknesses are, and called out business acumen, perspective, understanding of the business of coaching, where I felt he was holding the mirror up and didn't want me to learn from the mistakes that he had. So now it's leaning into, and I'm pun intended here, leaning into the Lean Startup as a book. So he didn't give me that book recommendation. I had to do some Googling and find one that speaks to me as a complete novice in the business space and start to pick up experience from there. So then within the world of Power Athlete, now I got an opportunity to stand up the Power Athlete methodology, a business within the business. So taking lessons from that lean startup of how I have somebody else's money to be very cautious with, and now stand up a business within the business to learn that. But that came from a moment with Raf speaking just open and honestly about mistakes that he had, that he could instill a lesson with me. So it's awareness on his part, but me now the social awareness to, okay, I got to pay attention here. It's this is a lesson not within the world of the weight room, but in a world of my industry that I better learn or else. So it's little things like that. I love to record, take notes on, not necessarily record, but take notes on conversations that I've had with guys, and then just jumping in little lessons that resonated with me. Again, referencing back to earlier in this conversation, my high school coach, who was probably a throwaway line, where you're going to be remembered for what you're not supposed to do, but it's stuck. Why did that stick on with me, that then changed the trajectory of my mindset and my career, right? A chip on the shoulder, not me against the world in a sense, but maybe I can be something that in the back of my mind, the labels are still sticking with me. So
I want to touch on something right there that is powerful in the power of mentors and coaches. A friend to both of us, a mentor to both of us, a coach and advisor to both of us in Coach Cav. Our trip 2023, I'll remember, that entire 10 days for the rest of my life. It literally changed the direction of where we were heading. But he took me for a moment. He took both me and my partner, Brooklyn. He took us to one of his athletes. I never know if he is accepting of us discussing names, so I never try to use them. But just in Cav being Cav, he took us along and was like, hey, I'm seeing this guy. Do you want to come? And I was like, by all means, in every instance, yes. You just say you've got something on and I'll be there. You just tell us where and when. He's like, no, I'll collect you from the shop. We're going here and I want to watch you in that environment. He didn't say anything. He didn't really give much cue, but one of the big, profound moments after the fact was, he's like, I wanted to see you in that scenario because it's going to dictate how you are in the future. In that scenario, are you going to be a fan or a coach? Because how those athletes meet you in that moment will determine whether they view you as a coach or a potential coach or a future coach, or if they view you as a fan and a fanboy, and you'll get stuck in that position forever. And the exciting thing for me was that I think from the history of athletics and performance that I have in my background, I was like, I'm not here to, for lack of a better term, circle jerk this elite athlete, this high performer, potential Hall of Famer, potential, big name. I'm not here to do that. NFL is not my sport per se. It is my interest. People are my interest. Athletes are my interest. But it's not my sport where I'm like, holy crap, this guy's this guy from this team. It was a moment of like, I may never get this again. How do I take from this situation and learn from it? And how do I take the lessons from Cav in his environment to better myself as a coach? And also look at this athlete in his prime zone, in his environment where he excels. And from that conversation, Cav was like, I just wanted to see how you do things. He's like, I just wanted to see what you would do. And I wanted to see how you would handle that scenario, because 99% of the world don't get to watch a 1%er for free in their environment do their thing behind closed doors. And he's like, I just want to see what you did in that scenario. And that to me was like, to have that moment where a coach is just like, you're either going to be a fan or you're going to be a coach, and the athlete will remember you for that moment for the rest of your life. And I was like, wow. As just like the idea that someone like Cav was putting me in that position to try and not as, yes, assess me, but give me that opportunity to display what I wanted to do, what my goals were. Like, where am I serious about being a performance coach, a lifetime coach, or am I concerned with being the guy who gets to meet the athlete? And I think that's such a, the like you were sort of saying there, those moments where you can be socially aware, having that social awareness to take in the surroundings and go, this is not the time to ask for a signature. This is not the time to get a photo. This is not the time to, get a signed jersey. This is a time to soak in that I may never be here ever again as a coach. And this may be a once in a lifetime experience that I can handle to my other clients. I can give this moment to my other clients in my lessons.
Yes. So it's almost like we planned this. This levels into the next phase of developing emotional quotient. So we had self-awareness, social awareness, and then the next phase, and this is where Cav gave you the opportunity, this is self-management.
Mm-hmm.
I may really be passionate about this person and saw them succeed X amount of years ago on the field or television, but now I'm in their presence. Mm-hmm. How am I going to act? So I'm regulating my emotion and just focusing on what they need in this moment, whether I'm providing the guidance, the information, or I'm respectfully meeting them for the first time. So that self-management goes a long way. And there's layers and levels to that as well, right? Being clean shaven, depending on the rules of the clubhouse, showing up on time, shirt tucked in. How am I managing myself? This is big for me. Clean car. So if I'm working with an intern, I'm peeking, okay, how often do we wash and take care of our car? Is the inside messy? Are there wrappers everywhere from fast food or protein bars, whatever? You're an intern. So little things like that do go a long way for helping them appear to be a professional when they get that opportunity to meet another pro, whether that's an athlete, a coach, because that's going to be memorable and an opportunity. Going back to when I flew out to California to spend 2 days with Ruiz and Wellborn, I was all in as a 23-year-old pro. I acted like a professional. 3 years later, when I got the opportunity to interview, I was memorable. So that self-management does go a long way in respect to that. So there are layers to this. And then if you do have low self and social awareness and you appear as not all together, or maybe the athlete, if it don't look right, it don't fly right, to use a Charlie Francis quote. So maybe you do get that opportunity and they're like, no, I'm not going to work with that person. And you're left wondering why. How did this happen to me? Well, then we need to go back into the self and social awareness. If I'm losing clients, well, then it could be in line with your appearance, what you said, all these different things that are in line with self-management and preparing there. So that's right in line. So then Cav puts you in a position to observe and then circle back with feedback and reinforce how you acted. So that's great. I love to put people in those opportunities. I'm glad Cav took that chance to see who you are and then reinforce the lessons that you were on point with those pros. That's awesome.
But I think it's a really important lesson here. As you know, a lot of our end listener and viewer is in the coaching space, semi-athlete space. A lot of physique competitors listen to our stuff. A lot of physique performance coaches listen to our stuff. And the important lesson here, I find, is, this is a very one of the things I love about guys like yourself is we have it's more of a conversation than it is like I've got this elite guest on my podcast where, I don't have the lessons to share. It's just this great flowing conversation of like where we've both been and things we have available. And you have that framework in what you do. It's fantastic. So it's such an easy way to extrapolate out of you. The important lesson here is any upcoming coach, any upcoming athlete is, do you have self-awareness? And if you don't, you should get it. You should get it. You should spend time in front of the mirror, hold that mirror up to yourself and ask, I'm a big believer in Jocko's accountability and ownership. It's a part of the philosophy I teach is like, I'll take ownership every day of every single thing that went wrong. If a client, an athlete, the business did something that went backwards. What was my role in that? How do we not do that again? How fast can I implement the change to never repeat that? But then at the same time, as yourself listening to this, you yourself have to look at that and go, why am I where I am? Why am I on that end of that client leaving me? Why am I on the end of not getting that opportunity? Why am I the end of not having enough knowledge to go to that next level as a coach? Or am I putting in the work as the athlete? Am I putting in the sets and reps and, turning over every stone available to me to get to that next level? The ability to do that is paramount to success, because not every one of us is born with the genetic gift to be 6'3", 270 pound, massive wingspan, palm size, that's going to determine you to be, in your, what do you guys call it? You have your what are they called? The tests you guys do?
Combine?
Come on, yeah. There's all these genetic traits, to be fair. That's really what they are. They're kind of genetic assessments, for a lack of better, I guess, assessment or understanding. Not everyone is born with those. And so at a certain point, you need to look at the mirror and go, if I don't have that, what do I have? Well, you can build self-awareness. You can build accountability. You can build ownership and go, I am now responsible for these things. How do I make myself better? And as a starting coach, as a moderate level coach, as an intermediate coach, you're looking at this conversation going, two guys here who have a lot of experience in what they've done and a lot of years in the trenches, both as athlete and coach, client and coach, captain and coach, if you will. How do you hear this conversation and not walk away and go, I guess I need more self-awareness. I need to build self-awareness and that ownership of self, because that's going to be where the difference maker is.
It's not easy. So I'll call out 2 points to start. One, I had CJ Appenzeller on Captains and Coaches podcast, and he gave a story, and he speaks to this gut-wrenching moment that it is ingrained in him, where he's speaking to an individual, and then he started talking trash. He used other colorful language. I aim not.
Typical South Jersey way.
Exactly. So he started talking trash about another person to a man that he admired. So a higher level coach than him started talking trash about another individual in the industry, and then the guy listened and nodded his head, which then CJ took as a social cue of like, oh, he agrees with me. And so CJ kept pouring it on, and then the man stopped him, and this is in the streets of New York City. You're going to have to listen to the podcast for him to drop the name. But then he said essentially like, okay, well, sometimes what we dislike or hate or, makes us cringe in another individual is also a limitation within ourselves that we're not accepting. And so CJ just, a professional man that he admired in the field just gave him a gut check. And well, that reframed, and he used the names and shared the story, but that reframed how he's thinking. And that is a self-awareness moment. So people that want to start to develop self-awareness, where have I felt envy? Where have I just blood boiling for another person? Where have I just not got along with somebody? And you start to see why, because those are more than likely negative characteristics and traits that you have within yourself that you haven't yet taken on. So I have online strength and conditioning programs, and I integrate leadership development within them. So how I schedule and plan it, my 6-week blocks, instead of giving it an awesome name, I target those negative traits that kill leaders and they kill teams. It could be I mentioned envy. It could be shame. All these different factors where if an athlete starts to feel this on a team, then they start to crabs in a bucket, bring their teammates down. Now, as a coach, if I can't identify these characteristics, these traits within myself, then I'm not going to be able to recognize it in a team. And all of a sudden I lost my team, and then you don't know why. So the program's called Old Bull. I integrate character development, leadership development within natural strength and conditioning principles. So it's as much lead yourself as it is anything else. So now it's identifying those things. Envy, I will say that within the coaching industry, that's a big one. I encourage, if you are envious of someone, go spend time with them. If I'm jealous, I want to know, okay, man, you've got an awesome car. I love cars myself. If you got an awesome car, okay, well then what are the problems? What's going on here? What's the, miles per gallon? I don't know, kilometers per gallon. Or what's a gallon? I don't know what you use for gas
I
in
don't know what.
Australia.
Actually, no, I do. I think we worked it out. I think there's about 3.2 liters to a gallon.
So liters. So
Liters.
when you
Yeah.
go and pay at the pump,
Yeah. We
it's
use.
X amount
Yeah.
of dollars per liter. Okay.
Yep.
So kilometers per liter,
That's it.
right? Is
There you
this an
go.
awesome truck, but is it a gas guzzler, right? So trying to look for, man, what are they complaining about? Instead of just being jealous of everything they have, what are their negative, man, what, and then this now goes into the next phase, relationship building.
Mhm.
So self-awareness, social awareness, self-management. Now I start to build relationships.
Mhm.
So I'm building all of those pillars underneath this, and if we're building a home here, the next level that we're building is going to be relationship. So a big part of self-awareness is, who are my connections and my relationships? I've mentioned a lot of mentors. I also have a lot of friends within the industry.
Mhm.
Again, like, these are people I'm leaning into. Why do you want to talk to me? Why do you like to me? Okay, well, those are strengths.
Mhm.
Why are certain people not I do have negative voices against me out there. Thank God for the internet to keep me humble. So what is negative about me from their perspective? Okay, how can I work on that skill? So relationship skills, not only for me from coach to athlete, I'm looking from all levels. There's a great book I love to read, Readers Are Leaders. John C. Maxwell is a established leadership name in the United States. He's got a book called 360-Degree Leadership.
Mm.
I read this as an athlete. As a team captain, I wanted to work on my leadership. It was a business book. I tried to filter and apply it to athleticism at the time. I just didn't have the personal experience to have the carryover from business to sport. Now I do, and I still recommend the book, and I love it. So within that 360 degrees as a team captain, I got to lead up to coaching staff and head coach. I also got to lead down towards my teammates, and then I got to lead on the same level as my other co-team captains or seniors or the people within my class here. So that 360 does paint the picture, and I have to develop I have to develop relationships with these levels, but each one of those relationships is different, because now we can step into power dynamics. And this is a concept from a buddy, Brett Bartholomew. Art of Coaching is his company. He speaks a lot of power dynamics and how to not manipulate, but just how to bring different energies to those levels appropriately. So John C. Maxwell, Brett's got a great book himself, Conscious Coaching. Definitely check those out. But the next phase here is relationship building. So in pairing self-awareness with that, why are my friends my friends? Or why am I hanging out with people that are not models of who I want to be or who I believe that I am as a person? So what are their actions outside of their jobs, careers, or are they bringing you down in the respect to what they're doing? Are they speaking negatively and being the crab in the bucket? Well, then I start to complain, because they're complaining. I want to match their energy and complaints, and it just becomes this negative spiral downward. So it does take a lot of courage to then see, okay, self-awareness, social awareness, and then self-management. Me stepping up and relationship building in line with that, me stepping up and saying, hey, you're acting out of character. You're out of line. You tell me you want this goal, but you're not. So if I can do that with my friends, it now empowers me to 360-degree leader, do that down and then do that up. But if I can't do it on the same level, don't expect to show up and call out your leaders for not being in line with their character, which does take a lot of courage to do that. And I've failed at that multiple times, is leading up, defaulted to being a quiet person when I did observe leaders acting out of line of who they were. So I've failed at that 1,000 times. So don't feel bad if you saw it and you didn't say anything, but then how did you react on that level? Did you now continue to talk shit about your boss down to subordinates? Well, that's not going to fly, because now you're training your subordinates how to act around you as their manager within business and leadership. So it's all connected, man. And that there's one more layer I want to get to, but speaking of relationships, this is something that I admire about you, because you travel all the way across the world and you have short windows to develop deep bonds, and that's a strength in itself. You're not one of the coaches that just selling PDFs to the figure community, the weight class community. No, you're getting who they are and developing something for them. That's a relationship. So if we're speaking to coaches within that space, it's not just, hey, buy my program. It's, okay, what are your goals here? Where have you started? Where are you at now? Why did you fail previously? Okay, what phase are we in? Now let's develop a plan for you.
What you have just described is in the context of the field that we operate, I believe is the difference between being a trainer, being an online trainer, and being a coach. And these are the lessons, like, we talk about lessons, we talk about social awareness, talk about taking experiences. These are the lessons that I have taken from my own experiences of being coached, of having coaches in sport, in performance sport. And it's a topic that I'm going to touch on later, which is, an identity I've started. I shared a content piece on it recently. Was the belief I'm starting to identify in a profile of people, in those who have played or been coached in competitive sport, and those who have never played competitive sport or competition. And we'll touch on that in a moment, because it is a very deep profile that I'm really starting to see evident in people. But what you just described, I think, is paramount in the difference between being just a trainer and being a coach. To me, when you're a coach, you are impacting the person at the life level. When you are a trainer, you're impacting them in the 60 minutes you have them in the gym or on the field. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being a trainer, but if you're sitting there selling the online trainer package of, 4 sessions or 5 sessions a week, my program is pre-mapped out for you and every single person fits this bill, so just buy for $5. You're not a coach. Please take coach out of your name. I don't put a lot of weight in language a lot of the time, but to me, there is a profound respect that should be placed upon the word coach, because you are impacting someone at a level that goes beyond the gym or the field and starts to transcend their life and basically evolve them as people. You have a responsibility to escalate their character and make them better. And if you're not doing that alongside giving sets and reps, let's take coach out of your name. There's nothing wrong with being a trainer. There's nothing wrong with training people. But when you take on the mantle of coach, there is a distinct responsibility to me that goes beyond whether or not they execute the sets and reps, because how you coach them in life is going to determine whether they execute the sets and reps. And that to me is, one of the things that, as we've talked about now, moving on to relationships in this great level you've mentioned, is I have become a better person and a better coach from just the relationships that, by technicality, we've had 4 weeks in America in 2 years. But from that 4 weeks, I have made relationships that have leveled me up as a coach, networks that have leveled us up as business, and experiences that have leveled me up as a person. So from those 4 weeks and the ability to get in the trenches of, the ironic thing is the person escalating us is Cav. The person me in our corner is Cav. Ironically, his first name is, in all of his Instagram handles, is Coach Cav, is paramount in basically where we've managed to escalate to in such a short period of time. But we had to sell Cav. I don't want to say sell. I had to prove to Cav that I was worthy of his investment and his belief, and that he wanted to bring me into his circle. Because someone like Cav is very easy at sniffing out bullshit. As a coach, as a mentor, as an educator, as a trainer, Cav is very quick at sniffing out shit, for a lack of a better term. And so to get to that level where, before I even get to you guys to build those relationships, we have to form a relationship with Cav. Now, this guy is a 5-cycle Olympic coach, a business savant. He is basically, don't ever tell him I said any of these things because they're too nice. But basically, he is, a multi-sport Olympic coach. He's done manual treatments, rehabilitation, psychological performance assessment and coaching. He's in the NFL space. He's in the track space. This guy has a multitude of skills. And in the space of, I think, a 90-minute podcast like we're having here, he went from, Ben's just this guy who wants to ask me some questions, to how do I get you to America and a part of my circle? But we had to sell that. We had to build that relationship and nurture that conversation first for him to go, yeah, it was a good chat, but I think there's more here. And then he brought us in. And inside that, what we've now technically had is 4 weeks, we've met you guys. We've met CJ, Dylan, Gary, the rest of the mastermind group, Danny, like Paul. We're in this group. And please, everyone, forgive me that I haven't mentioned because there's 30 of us in there. Tintle, like these Charlie, like I'm just naming names here because they're all in it and they're all doing their unique thing. But each one of them, we had to build that relationship with to make me a better person, make me a better coach, to improve our systems. Kane and Cav sitting us down with these masterminds going, hey, this is where your systems can be better. This is where you can improve your operations process. We don't get that if we don't build that relationship with Cav first. And this is where, to kind of emphasize the point of the lesson here that you guys can take away from this conversation is isolating yourself as a coach or a trainer, thinking you're better than everyone, thinking your shit don't stink at the pinnacle of the mountain of Dunning-Kruger. If you're not able to assess self-assessment and understand the social environments, you can't build that relationship with someone, understand what context or circumstance you're in, then you're not going to level up. You're going to be stuck thinking you know everything and that you're better than everyone. The reality is that as much as I already knew, the conversations we had with you guys, before I jumped on Dave Tate, yo, TEX, how would you handle this? This is the biggest conversation I've ever had, the biggest level I've ever reached. How do you handle this conversation? Bang, 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 here's some points. Fantastic. CJ, how do we break into that American performance coach market? Oh, go talk to this guy. Here's a conversation right here. End up meeting a manual therapist that works with the third best Olympian bodybuilder in the world. Like, we have to build those relationships first. And those relationships then basically they forced us to get better. Because I personally, as a coach, as someone with self-awareness, I can't sit in a room with you guys and go, I'm the best here. I can't sit, but I also can't sit in that room and go, I'm going to let them evolve past me. I'm going to look at that room and go, how the fuck do I keep up?
Yeah.
But that's the power of what those relationships you're talking about. That's what they can do. They force you to elevate and stop you from being, for a lack of better word, shit.
And that's it. And that's that final phase. It's almost like we planned this. The final phase is responsible decision making. So this is where you make a determination. Are your self-limiting beliefs going to continue to put a ceiling on your career? Are people that are telling you otherwise, you get to this, you're very self-aware, you got good relationships, but there's still people that are putting a ceiling on you. Are you going to stay within that chamber, that limitation, that limiting belief that they're now instilling? Or are you going to make a decision to look around and find the people that are willing to invest in you? And then you make the conscious decision, okay, here's where my limitations are. I'm going to lean into Kane for business systems. Here's where my limitations are, and I'm going to lean into this person. So you start to see the network around you and their strengths, and you begin to lean into these people of how they can level you up as an individual. Those are responsible decisions that it takes a long time to get there, to open up and say, I can learn from others. So that's the ultimate phase. And this cycle that we've gone through, this is important for athletes as well. This is where the captains and coaches comes together. So we have self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, relationship building, and then responsible decision making. Ultimately, if I'm an athlete, responsible decision making, that's game day. That's what I choose to do with the ball or my job within my team environment. For your athletes is going to be the show. Every decision that led up to that moment, it needed to be responsible because I value the opportunity for me to step on stage, and then, to use a football term, the hay's in the barn. All the work is done. Now it's time to have some fun up there. So all of that, it culminates within this development phase. But you need to have all of these components in place to make the right decisions, responsible decision making, that then continues to allow you to grow. And that ceiling, a lot of people will put that on you. And then you make the decision to step out and then go a different path, go on your own, or find mentors and leaders that are going, like Cav, that are going to see potential and then pour into you if you're willing to open up and then allow to be poured in. So that is a big decision. And this came from a lesson from the masterminds. I got a lot of notes here that I wanted to cover and talk about. I don't know where it is on here, but it's here, where you have different mentors and guiding lights for different phases of your life.
Big.
And don't feel that you have to stick with one guiding light. If you've outgrown that or the light's dimmed, it's opportunity and time to find more light to continue to grow. That's going to pour water on you, plant analogy, and have this sprouting and develop fruit for athletes. I'm just all analogies right now, for then athletes to grab that fruit and develop from there. So it's so connected, man. And I'm grateful for this conversation that just led right through this. And that's the aim of captains and coaches, is to have athletes' journeys and then learn from that and instill and pass along those lessons, whether they want to be a coach or a father or a leader within business. Like, all of that are lessons that you will instill. So going back to the start of the conversation, where sports don't teach lessons, captains and coaches do. They just use the vehicle and the vessel of sport to get those lessons across. And that's what we're aiming to do here. That's the mission. And just flowing through the EQ process that we've laid out here will go a long way for coaches to understand that, so they can continue to pour into the people that they want to impact and empower.
See, what you've just touched on there leads me to a very, and I was kind of touching on this previously, so I wanted to get to it with someone like yourself that's been both and understands both. One of the things I'm noticing more and more is for the right athletes, I would say, probably for the right athlete, not all athletes, but there is a profile that I'm starting to develop in the people that I do business with. Like, as we spoke about at the mastermind, there's the whole other side to matter that people don't really know about that we do. That's a lot more of the business acumen side, the business performance realm, as well as the athletic performance realm. In people we do business with, in people that I'm identifying in business, and people that I'm identifying in life, there is characteristics, there is traits, there is psychological profile, there's personality profile between those who have put themselves in the depth of competitive sport, especially contact competitive sport, and people who have never touched any form of competition. I truly believe that, especially ingrained in those younger years. Like, I don't know about yourself, but I started playing sport at, I think, about the age of 4 or 5. My brothers were exposed to sport. They're 2 and 4 years older than me. I was basically along for all of their sports because mum had to take me with her to those training sessions, to those games. So by the age of 4, I've got 2 brothers now with 2 and 4 years worth of experience in playing sport themselves, and I'm along for the ride even earlier than they were. So for me, the lessons, the mentoring, and the subtle and subconscious education I've learned, directly or indirectly, purposefully or lack of purposefully, from the coaches and the captains and the principals and the presidents of the clubs and the teams I was a part of, I've had that across now, since 4 years old, and I've never now, even during my injury rehabilitation and my chronic diagnosis of my back pain, it was competition and sport that got me through it. It was the lessons of competitiveness, of drive, of effort, of self-development, of discipline, those lessons that I learned across sport that got me through that without being depressed, aggressive, frustrated, spiteful, petty. These lessons that I learned, these experiences that I learned, have shaped the future of my life that can only really be experienced through something like sport. Because, like you said, the sport doesn't teach the lesson, the captains and the coaches do, but you won't get that opportunity if you don't put yourself in a sport, because you cannot be coached. Sure, you can be coached in academics and things like that, but truly competitive sports-specific coaching has such an opportunity to teach. And to me, I'm not sure if you've seen something similar, but to me, I'm starting to see a stark differential between those who have put themselves in that environment to be competitive, to be physical, to be demanding, to be disciplined, to be coached, to be improved, especially as they progress with that high level, because we know what it takes to get to that high level. With it goes beyond talent at that point. It actually takes talent and hard work and skill, versus people in life that just haven't. They haven't been in that, exposed to that. They haven't put themselves there. They lack the social awareness. They lack the social, just to kind of an example of what I mean by that social awareness, you know where you stand in the team. You know where you stack up in the team. Does the team trust you? Does the team believe in you? Or do you have no faith from the team? You're going to know very quickly. And that's a lesson you have to learn on the fly. You will learn very quickly if your team trusts you. If you're in a position of power or a position of importance in your team, QB, running back, coach, captain, if you're in a position of power and control on a field, you're going to know very quickly if your team trusts you. You're going to know very quickly where you stand in the hierarchy in that social environment. And these are all things that you don't learn unless you're in that exposure environment inside sport. And so I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, or what you have seen yourself. But I think it is a distinct difference.
Yes, and how I'm going to frame this is using the sport of lacrosse and Texas. So football is king here. I've painted that picture very well. And then there's this sliver of lacrosse, and why I continue to coach high school. I continue to pour in, and it's pennies on the hour. I am not doing it for the paycheck. So a lot of parents in this region, they didn't play lacrosse. So it's a contact sport. Then parents are stepping in to now think they have power over the coaches and tell them how to do their job for a sport that they never played. They may have played football, but they didn't play lacrosse. So it's seeing them observing practice or the car ride home or only seeing the game. And then Dunning-Kruger, as you mentioned, them thinking they can do the job better. So I get that sense, and I've had this battle, and I continue to learn how to navigate it every single season, because there's always a different batch of parents, especially with COVID kids. So learning to navigate that, they've never played the sport, and they're coming in and telling the sport coach how to do their job. So it is an interesting thing. And that's where I've learned to shut off a lot of the internet haters, is because where the perspectives are they coming from? My journey is irreplicable if you have this opinion on my views or how I'm teaching and coaching and leading. Well, I'm leading based off my experience. So now parents, I need to navigate that. I can't just shut them off and shut them down. I need to learn to hear them and then reframe and shape their arguments to help them see my perspective. So that's where I try to step in and allow my experience to be listened to. I don't put up that wall and laugh at them and put them down. I want to hear their experience, but then lean into, and I find subtle ways to drop and lay down my experience as a collegiate athlete. And if they try to say, well, it was just Division III, okay, now you're trying to shame me on my experience. Then I level up and say, well, I was a strength and conditioning coach with Georgetown University, and Kevin Warren is the head coach. He's still there. It's been 13, 14 years. So in college athletics, you're either a coach for 3 years or 30. They found the right man. I was fortunate to be on his first year program where we instituted a culture for him. And we, through strength and conditioning and mental toughness training, I'm using air quotes there, we ran them a lot and did a lot of hard work, and kids decided to opt out of the program or opt in, right? So then I speak to my lacrosse strength and conditioning, and I was on the weight room, in the locker room, on the sidelines. So now try to get them to go there. And if that's not enough, then speak to traveling the world, teaching seminars and getting contracts with Naval Special Warfare, SEAL Team 6 through Wellborn, and then stepping into their weight room and leading the tip of the spear for the United States of America. So having my experiences and then leaning into them. And if parents are still having a challenge when they don't see that I'm essentially volunteering a lot of my time to spend with their kids to shape them as young men, leaders, SEAL Team 6, or athletes through my experience strength and conditioning, or as lacrosse players through my experience as a Division III athlete or a college level athlete, and then a college lacrosse coach. So it's painting this picture, and then, okay, where and why are they not buying in? So if it's none of my experience, now there's something else going on. They're trying to live vicariously through their kid. Okay, well, now this is a great conversation we had with CJ. How now do I verbal judo and wrestle? Okay, is this your goal or is this your son's goal?
Yep.
So if you want your kid to play D1, what does your kid do? So now aim to redirect to, okay, highlighting and shining the light on the son's goals. So these are through conversations, and I've been called out a lot for doing CrossFit at practices. Dude, we're conditioning, we're running. This is how sports prepare. We're going to get you in shape, and we're going to build teams through conditioning. It's not CrossFit. I don't have any barbells out there, dude. So it's hilarious. So they try to find little things that they, from their experience, they don't like. And I'm going to use another CrossFit term here. This is from Greg Glassman, a quote I do enjoy. You fail and fall at the margins of your experience. Their experience as dads are football from way back and currently fitness, which is, strength and conditioning or CrossFit in their garage or with a local box here. So that's their experience. So now I'm understanding their experience. I've gained that through the conversation. How can I wrestle it? And then eventually, if you're not buying in by my experience, shifting and shining the light on their kid and making it about them. So this is the contact sport. I do love it. It hurts my body. I'm 38 years old. I still feel it in my ankle. I've broken my ankle and then been rehabbing it for freaking 20 years. So it's there, but we just need to shine light on the appropriate lessons and where does that carry over to real life. And that's a lot of the mission of the podcast. And final comment here, I like to call it and label it 0 to 1 leadership. 0 to 1 is a business term. When you stand up and start your business for the first time, you go from $0 to $1. And you in Brooklyn know this well. It is a grind. So that story, that journey within leadership, 0 to 1 leadership, right? I work hard, got all the intangibles as a young man, an athlete, and then coaches hand me over, hey, okay, you're team captain. Just get everybody to act like you. They don't help you. It's similar to starting a business. Okay, I got all these books, but what do I do? And I face that as a team captain. So trying to distill those lessons down, there's not a lot of athlete leadership book specific. There's a lot of great people doing a lot of great things, just aiming to get a piece of that puzzle now myself. And then in respect to 0 to 1, their first year as a coach, like my origin story, I spent a lot of time with speaking to that first year because there's every mistake that you're going to make in your first year changes the trajectory of your career if you allow it to. I injured a kid. I needed to find mentors to teach me how to strengthen condition. I felt imposter syndrome as a recruiter. Okay, where can I reframe my experience, right? Getting my experience listened to, that's going to bring value to the kids and the parents. I may not have a lot of experience with lacrosse, but I do building teams and working together and hard work, intangibles that'll carry over to business. D3, we're not going pro, but we are going pro in the business world. So let's learn some lessons together that can carry off and build some relationships. So it's taking these lessons and reframing it in that respect to 0 to 1. So contact sport, yes, and a captain and coach to help teach those lessons that will then carry over to our lifetime. But it was never a sport alone. And then I encourage any athletes out there to reflect on their playing career. And can you name a coach and individual? Can you name a teammate? It most likely was those teammates and those coaches that helped find a passion and continue for you to be passionate about that sport. And you didn't continue it out of hate. That's for sure.
I've got one final question that has been something that, again, I've had this conversation with Cav behind closed doors 100 times, CJ, etc. Like, so one of the things that is very big in American sport that's made it to Australian culture, in American sporting culture, film culture, is the idea of the stealing a term from Prime, Coach Prime, and the TV show on the Prime Network right now. I've been watching it. Is the preacher coach, and one of the things that it's predominantly a HBCU sort of terminology, but I believe it's around the collegiate and high school coaching industry. Is any good coach that I've seen, met, or interacted with, or conversed with, or just studied on film, they're looking to make a greater man than just a great athlete. And I'm curious on your take on that. Is it something that still exists in American sport that we can probably stand to even better from in other sporting realms, in other cultures of sport and performance, like stage? It is something that I try to emulate, but I'm not sure if it's common. That idea that we're instilling lessons and experiences of manhood, of growth, of self-development, is that still in the coaching program repertoire philosophy, or is it something you think should come back? The old TCU Williams, Ken Carter. We're looking at Marshall High School. We're looking at We Are Marshall. We're looking at The Game Stands Tall. These films that display and convey this idea of education and lessons through the sport as almost a preacher, educator, mentor position, not just a sets reps program position. Do you see that still in the game, in the sports, in the fields, or is it something that you think needs to have more of a resurgence?
It's difficult to teach because that comes down to EQ. I love a pregame speech. Those are the moments. If we're talking sports movies, I wait patiently for it. When is it going to come? Sometimes it's the head coach. Sometimes it's the mother father figure. And then if you've seen the wrestling movie, the Vision Quest, it comes from just a man's cook, right? He's a high school wrestler who wants to give up and quit on his career. His dad is a single dad. He doesn't have the mother figure in there. And the mentorship comes from a cook in a kitchen, and he gives arguably one of the greatest pre-meet speeches in any movie. So check out Vision Quest. So it is in, and that's an 80s movie. It's been in this allure forever. Certain coaches, they take the time, they invest, and they connect it to a weekly message that they bring to the team. So I've been fortunate to, I love small towns. I've lived in small towns in everywhere that I've lived. And then most recently I lived in a small town that's called Salina, Texas. So Salina is lower level football school, but their head coach, in the history of 75 years of the program, they've only had 3 head coaches. So if you're anointed head coach, you're going to stay for 30 years and then hand off to a person that you've mentored and led to. So what they do is they have Thursday mornings, they open it up to the community. And I love this stuff. So hearing about this, okay, I can be a part of the booster club for $10 and I get a free breakfast every Thursday. So Thursday morning, coach, they show film, offensive, defensive coordinator, they show film from the previous Friday. They highlight, hey, these kids are awesome. Then as patrons, we sit there and we got little note cards and we write motivational notes and make sure that every kid has at least one motivational note to put in their locker to go into Friday Night Lights. So offensive, defensive coordinators, they give us highlights. And then what they do is give us the scouting report. So they highlight their offense and then they give the scouting report for the opposing defense that they're going to face this Friday night. So they do that, offense, defense coordinator. Then they hand it off to the head coach. And he's every bit of a Marine. He played offensive line at TCU back in the heyday. I don't even know exactly, maybe 70s. So he's every bit of that stature and that presence of a head coach. And he speaks to it and says, hey, this is the message that we're giving the guys this week. And so it's a consistent message on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday practice, then Thursday practice, and then the pinnacle, the peak. That's the message that they bring into for the Friday night pregame speech. So that's in a sense where it's a continuous message that leads to a theme. A lot of coaches, they see the prime, they see the moment, and then that becomes their Super Bowl. The pregame speech becomes a Super Bowl versus the continuous message of development that Coach Elliott does at Salinas, as an example. So again, we only see the peak and the prime moment, pun intended, for the coach. I'm curious, and I haven't watched the show. I don't know what consistent message he's saying throughout practice. He's been in enough locker rooms that he gets it. It could potentially lead to, okay, consistent message, moment. That's the thing to embrace, is consistent lessons to the moments, and that's how you should build your pregame speech. And then I'd go to the haze in the barn. All the work has been done, and now we're just getting hyped and excited to have some fun. So I love the allure of it, like you mentioned, within the media and the sports, everything about it. There's certain coaches that do it great. I'll highlight Coach Elliott in Salina. And then I imagine, again, I'm not in these locker rooms, so I won't judge. I imagine they just live for that moment. It becomes that preacher on Sunday that maybe the team is not living those lessons throughout the week, but then they go to Sunday for forgiveness. If my team's doing that, we're not going to lead to success. We need to be doing everything consistently that then leads to the cap, and getting hyped in our moment before the game. So it's out there. I love it. I think it's good reps for a coach to stand and deliver. It's going to take you years to get good at a pregame speech. So if you're viewing it as every Friday night before a competition to get your reps in, maybe at a lower level, and as you work up the ranks, you've got it dialed in, I encourage you to ensure that every lesson throughout that week leading up to your moment is consistent and has a theme. Again, I'll reference back to the Old Bull program I have. So every cycle focuses on a negative trait, envy, jealousy. And then we start by holding up the mirror on week 1. Week 2, we go through the progression I've laid out here, self-awareness. Now you start to ask questions, social awareness. Where are you seeing this in your workplace or your teams? Then we get into self-management. Okay, when you feel envy, do this. And it's going to start to work through that. The example I gave is, if you're envious of somebody, spend time with them. Get to know their problems, and the grass won't always be greener. Right. And then you progress to relationship building. Now I'm actively building a relationship with the person I'm envious with. And that leads to responsible decision making. Okay, now I'm looking around, and if I'm not happy with where I'm at, I'm going to take the necessary steps. So I pair that with movement, and I have weeks laid out versus practices leading to a Friday competition. I have to spread it out because I'm working with professionals. And then I hope those questions that I'm asking of the leaders, they start to ask of their athletes. And we just, or the people they're managing, it's not just for coaches, it's for business professionals as well, that they're aiming to see this stuff and empower their leaders. So it's all connected, man. And we're just having fun helping connect the dots for coaches who are not there yet.
That's the big thing. I think, we'll wrap up very shortly, because me and you, I already feel that, again, extending that relationship and network, just this conversation is going to take our relationship to that next level. The respect and appreciation I have to the philosophy that you view of coaching just resonates so well with me, because I understand the impact and responsibility that we have as coaches to deliver, but also to role model, to produce, to emulate, to share, and I guess guide our athletes, clients, staff, etc. The big thing there that you're kind of talking about, I think really is, for the upcoming coaches, it's understanding, what is our self-assessment, understanding where you are, understanding how these conversations can help you get there, understanding how you can put yourself in rooms with people. Like, I live for the direct message that comes in my inbox of an upcoming coach being like, man, I heard you on this podcast, I had this question, or, hey, how did you do that with your athlete? Or I saw their physique change like this, what did you do? Yeah, at a certain point, it'll be like, hey, my time is a bit expensive. This might be a mentorship we can talk about. But if you're someone who's putting yourself out there, and I can read that room like you're me 5-10 years ago, I'm going to help you. I'm going to direct you to the right people. I'm going to take time to answer that question because you put yourself in that context. And I think as upcoming coaches, regardless of field, body composition, physique performance, field performance, team sports, if you're putting yourself in those rooms and those environments and those conversations, it's going to help you grow as an individual. And then we're going to look at you as, the future coaches that we're going to be. We're going to look at you and go, hey, you asked that right question. You gave me that, I remember you from this moment where you had that interaction with me. I'm going to bring you along with me. I'm going to help you grow at the same time I do. That's how I view my relationship with Cav. At the rate that he scales, the rate that he escalates, he's consistently pulling me along with him to keep me in that radar and that circle where I might not be at his level, but I know I'm only 2 steps away or 2 conversations away from leveling up. And he's got me in the back of his mind to go, oh, Ben should meet this person. Ben belongs in this room. Tex belongs in this room. I'm going to connect him with this guy. That's the way that I view a mentor, as someone that I put myself in their vision. I put myself in their room, in their peripheral, to say, hey, I want to be at that level. I want to go with you and learn from you. And I think that's where, the upcoming coaches listening to this conversation, beyond the sets and reps and X and O's, there's so much to take out of this that you can listen to be better as an individual, a coach, or even athlete. There's just so much of this conversation. I think that when people truly understand the responsibility of coaching, the power of coaching, it just leads to such profound conversation, because it's such a unique field of career that you're so responsible for the life of others, of impacting the life of others, of changing the life of others, whether it be in their sport. It's great if you coach someone who goes on to the NFL, amazing. But you could have also coached someone to go and be a better person, or you coach them to get off the street. You coach them to get a career. You coach them to show up as a better family member, as a better member of society, that they now have a sense of self-belief they never had. Those are all potential outcomes that we as coaches can facilitate. That I don't think coaches look at, especially in the physique realm. They don't look at it through that lens. It's just, how do I get you a 6-pack and get you shredded? And that's great. That's one aspect. But to truly, at the deeper level, have the understanding of being a coach like yourself, there's so much more that we can do as coaches in this field, in this space, and even in your space, in the field space, in the team sport space. There's so much we can do as coaches to make an impact that goes beyond whether we got a trophy at the end of the season.
Yeah, I completely concur. A lot of people just get wrapped in the result and the conclusion, the wins, and that's not what it's about. And you ask anybody 20 years from now what their high school sport record was, and that's not what they lead off a conversation. And if they do say, hey, we were, then I mean that's a shell of an impact. They're leaning into their results because there was not a fruitful experience outside of that. Majority will lead off with the process, the journey, the experience, the lessons learned, and the emptiness would be in the undefeated season, or whatever our record was. So again, reflecting on what was the moment, the memorable, what do you want to be remembered for? So you do have a heavy responsibility, and it's your ethical responsibility to give every person that trusts you and empowers you to lead them everything that you have in guidance. And if you feel that they're not giving their all, if they're not matching your energy, this is the coaching paradox. If you want it more than your people, then we're in a position where you're going to have to take some self-reflection and create some self-awareness that why do you want it more than them? And this is where you said finding the right people. Now, okay, I need to create my my dream client and start attracting them so that they start to work in with us. So who are your clients? Are you starting to attract the wrong people, and then it starts to drain and suck the life out of you? Well, it's not coaching that's doing that. It's the message, the persona, the inauthentic people you're trying to grab. It's sucking the life out of you versus the people that truly give you energy and get you charged up. And now, okay, I don't care who's showing up today, man. We're going to have a great time at practice because my leaders are there. So I'm not going to let the negative people bring me down here because I got my people here. So start to ask all these questions, man. And that's self-awareness. If coaching starts to drain and suck the life out of you, Cav says environment's everything. There is a book that he recommended to me, a lecture series that he recommended to me, where the fish is not sick, the water is dirty. Yes. So lean into that. It's a video series. You got to buy it on DVD. I had to buy a DVD player to watch this. but it's still a valuable experience. I got it on my shelf. On my bookshelf, I can't see the man's name, but if you Google "the fish is not sick, the water is dirty," that'll go a long way for identifying and creating social awareness for the culture around you, which then would prepare you to change that culture.
I usually wrap things up with some rapid fire questions around childhood sports and preferred readings, but pretty much every book inside this conversation is worth reading. And I was just going to add to, we didn't even touch on culture. I had a whole thing of let's attack culture, but that's a whole other 4-hour conversation and podcast, whether it be business or sports. So from myself, 2 really key books you should go read are from Martin Rooney. Great recommendation. Cav, Coach to Coach is a fantastic book that, you read it and you have these click moments, like we've had this conversation where it's like, I thought that way and I didn't know how to word it, or I had that experience and it's so true. So every book mentioned, every podcast mentioned here is 100% worth reading and listening to. So I won't even bother asking the question because it's, just repetition at this point. For yourself though, how do we find more? We've got the captains and coaches coming out now, which I believe is up to episode 9, I think is the
10 as of 90 minutes ago.
There you go. So we've got episode up there. Episode 10. We've got 10 episodes out for that one. Where do we find you? What platforms? What streaming services? How does everyone go and learn more about being a better coach?
The Instagram is probably the best. So 2 handles. I have my personal account at McQuilkin, my last name McQuilkin, and then the aim with that account is to up-to-date cool stuff that I'm doing, and then the coaching through lacrosse experience, so specific to the sport of lacrosse, and then bringing together the weight room and the field. I got a unique position to where strength coach and sport coach. I believe that's the future of athletics and sport, is having a sport coach that also understands the weight room well. That's how my career started, so continue to lean into that. So that's, personal journey, and then with lacrosse S&C. And then the captains and coaches, this is where highlight clips and then motivational perspectives from individuals, whether it's quotes or stories and experiences, some sweet videos in there. So as a motivational bank, there's a lot of hustle porn out there that is just random and thrown together with some, Friday Night Lights, the movie theme music.
Yeah.
Well, this is very targeted, specific, and then flows within this self-awareness, social awareness theme that we covered there today. So not just picking random stuff, aiming to highlight great coaches that are using the power of spoken word to change lives. And those are your best bets. And then again, if you're looking for self-leadership development in line with strength and conditioning, I have a flexible, pun intended again, program where it's a choose your own adventure. So 2 required days, push and pull, and then a series of 20 minutes to 45-minute workouts, cardio, strength, hypertrophy, rucking, that then you just plug and play when your schedule allows. Because in my mind, leading by example is not optional. So providing a flexible strength and conditioning program to keep you looking the part, feeling the part, and leading the part. That's old bull. You can find the links on my Instagram accounts, both there. So that's it, man. Trying to give every lesson that I've ever learned from all the mentors and my personal experiences down, so we can continue to stand on the shoulders of giants and then take people where they can't take themselves, that they want to go, to quote Martin Rooney there. So I love people, I love coaching, I love connecting, and I don't want others to stand in the way of, potential that we see or people see within themselves, and they choose to accept a label or a ceiling that was put on them by someone else.
I love that. It's literally the great quote from Elite FTS: "Live, learn, pass on." And I think that's the definition of great educators and coaches is, our experiences shape our knowledge, our studies and our efforts shape our knowledge, and then our ability to deliver that, to pass on those lessons, is what we do. So Mate, it's been an absolute unreal privilege to have this conversation, and no doubt look forward to many, many more. I mean, we've barely scratched the surface on things that we could both convey on regarding the philosophy of coaching, the art of coaching. Yeah, mate, I really appreciate your time. It's nice and early for you guys, so enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll let you know when all these come out. We'll have everything linked to make sure that there is places to go and follow up with, and message Tex if you want to have more conversations about this stuff, because he will no doubt share his knowledge just like I do mine. So thank you very much, mate. Won't take any more of your time, and I look forward to many more of these conversations.
Oh yeah, man. We're just scratching the surface. There's a lot more to cover, so we'll make this a regular thing and continue to explore and empower.
I love it.
Cool.